Welcome. This is the Barrowcast, Uganda's podcast on oil and gas and the energy sector at large. If you need to understand the dynamics, the potential, the opportunities, the challenges around oil and gas and energy at large, the Barrowcast is your go-to podcast. My name is Canary and Bravo. I'm a journalist with NBS Television and I'll be your host today. But joining me on the show as a co-host is Bravo Katunji. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much, Canary.
Bravo Katunji is the founder and CEO of the Barrow magazine. What do you guys do?
So, my name is Ronnie Bravo Katunji, and what we do as Barrow is we are a communications platform specializing in oil and gas here in Uganda and with a global perspective. Hopefully we shall go East Africa, but currently we are focused on Uganda, but with a global outlook.
All right, guys, this is an introductory pilot episode. So we'll be telling you about the segments that we have, and segment number 1 is the Energy News Roundup. What we hear, at least for this week, that has made big news everywhere in the country, that UNOC has signed sales and purchase agreements with over 80 oil marketeers in Uganda. So you guys must have heard about the pulling of the rope between Uganda and Kenya. And actually, when NAM was taking place, I tried to ask President Ruto of Kenya his opinion on what's going on. The issue even went all the way to court. But as we speak right now, President went and visited Kenya and they signed this agreement. And now UNOC has penned the ink on paper. What does this mean? What are we talking about?
So what we are talking about is how you get petrol in your car.
Yeah.
What are the dynamics that make sure that you get petrol in your car?
Well, all I care about is when I go to the petrol station, that petrol better be there. Most times, I want to look at if the liters that I've purchased are the ones going into the engine, rather from the pump to the car.
Yeah,
that's all I care about. But maybe you're saying that there's more we should be caring about.
Yes, there is more you should be caring about because you also care about the price, right?
Yeah.
And you care whether if you go to the petrol station, the fuel will be there.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to line up.
Yes, you don't want to find long queues because there is no fuel. But also what we care about as an entity is to be able to earn some money on that chain from when the oil comes out of the ground to when it's refined to come to your car. So the restructuring around becoming a sole importer of all petroleum products is really to make sure that we increase the commercial value of the oil and gas sector in terms of Uganda's take home as a government, which hopefully then trickles down to the entire economy. So to give you an in-depth about
what has it been like?
Yeah, so what it has been like, you have been having Ugandan marketing companies that go over to Kenya and buy fuel from Kenyan oil marketing companies. And those Kenyan oil marketing companies buy from bulk traders, and those bulk traders buy from refiners.
Wow, that's such a long process.
As you can see, it's a long process. So the refiners is the refinery where these products are produced. Then some guy that has hundreds of ships, and most of them are not African, they buy directly from refiners. Most of the time in future, they buy for a whole year. And so those guys come and then sell to your Kenyan marketeers, and the Kenyan marketeers sell to your Uganda. Everyone puts a markup, mind you. Whoever buys has to put a markup to make business sense.
Yeah.
Then finally comes to the guys they are selling it to the petrol stations, and they also have to put a markup before it comes to your pocket. So
let's put this into perspective.
Yes.
Previously, I've been having 50,000, maybe fill up what? This is 7 years ago.
Yes.
Fill up maybe 15 liters.
Yeah.
And now 50,000 is just 9 liters. It's because of the markup and other dynamics in the economics, right?
Yes.
Are you saying now that UNOC becoming a sole importer, are we going to see the fuel drop in price? Are we going to see a change?
Yes.
Is it something I should be excited about?
I think as a person, one of the things that should be exciting is that this adds to our economy before even the fuel prices come down, okay? And what happens when we add to our economy? It means the debt reduces, and perhaps that have a knock-on effect on how much money you get, what's the interest rate in the banks. So that is the bigger picture, right? We want to make a bit more money from this chain coming into our economy. Because the chains, I told you, only one person was a Ugandan entity. Now we're going to have another Ugandan entity, which is the government. Then in terms of price, the oil price, as you know, is it cannot be easily predicted on one thing. It's predicted by things that do not even come from Uganda. The Russia-Ukraine war can have an issue. You've heard about the Caspian Gulf, where most of the ships pass to come to bring our oil here. They've been having issues there. And when that happens, what happens? The oil price goes up. So there's so many dynamics. No one should really give you any assurance that the price will go down or up. It might go down, it might go up.
Okay. But at least what we should be excited about is that whatever money we'll be earning from this process is government revenue.
Yeah.
So we can be excited that our roads will be fixed.
The other advantages...
That the road from Nigeria to Chile will be fixed because there's going to be some money at least. No more complaints.
There will be money coming into the economy. Whether it goes to the roads, that's another matter. But the other advantages in terms of, let's say, there was an all-out war and we cannot access these refiners. And it's possible. If you've been reading the news, you've been seeing a lot of geopolitical things happening, right? So what countries do, what governments do, is to increase what they call their storage capacity, to be able to store as much petrol so that if there is a war somewhere, you're able to go for a year or for a week. In the US, they can go for a year or for 6 months. Our storage capacity here is very, very limited. If that were to happen, it probably won't last 10 days or 2 weeks. So what this UNOC deal does, it is going to increase our capacity, because alongside that deal, UNOC is building a new storage terminal. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called the KST Kampala Storage Terminal. And it's going to be able to have capacity to retain up to 320 million liters. So what does that mean? It means they're giving us a buffer. So that you might not see that now, but if there is an issue, you will quickly figure that that's something that the government needs to do.
All right. Yeah. So what we understand, at least from today's Energy News Roundup, is that the first shipment of the petroleum by UNOC will start in July. Whether they have the capacity or not, that's something we'll definitely follow up, and you get the updates here on the Barrowcast. We'll be back shortly. This is the Energy Insider, and in this segment, we'll be exploring a lot of topics, but I thought it's important that we go back to the journey that started as early as 1925. Yes, 1925, when various companies started the exploration. Is there oil in Uganda? What was this process like? It's important that we understand where we've come from and where we are right now. Bravo is still with us on the show and will be telling us what that journey has been like on this also very segment. We'll be looking at, of course, opinions from different experts from different fields to add on to what we already know. Maybe they were there. What do they know that we don't? What is their expert opinion like? So Bravo, talk to us. So we are talking about 1925. I was looking at the pictures here, the documentation of petroleum potential by E.J. Wayland back then in 1925. That took a number of years, up to 1980. But in 1980 and then 2006, of course, there was limited activity because of the political instability. And the focus then, everyone was saying, agriculture is the backbone of the country. I don't know what our kids will say when oil is finally explored next year in 2025. But let's begin here. 2006, Heritage Oil and Gas Limited discovers oil in Kaisotonia area. It's around the Lake Albert Basin. What happens thereafter?
Well, I like stories. Do you like stories?
Yeah, I'm a storyteller.
Okay, good. So 1925 was not actually the inception. The story of Uganda's oil and gas sector goes back to the 19th century. During the explorers, the Livingstone guys were the first people to document. But even before that, because the telltale signs of oil in a region, some of them are oil seepages that you see on the ground as you're walking past. So the people in the Bunyoro-Kitara area, the Bunyoro-Kitara Kingdom, have known of the existence of Uganda's oil for hundreds of years. And during the exploration time, the explorers, they even recorded it in 1880 something, that they have seen those oil seepages. And Actually, that was around the time the oil industry was starting.
The what? The oil what?
The oil seepages. Those are things you see in the ground. So from when oil is in the ground, sometimes it overflows and comes to the surface. So these can be physically seen. So those have been in this area, in the Albertine area, for hundreds of years. And the Banyoro people knew about this. So when the Europeans started coming, they recorded and talked about these oil seepages when they went back in the 19th century, 1888. There is documents up to 1880 something.
Right.
So, but that date that you've mentioned, I think stands out because that's when the colonial government at the time commissioned that geologist, E.J. Wylands, to do a comprehensive study on, do we have oil and gas sector? So that was the first time someone confirmed that Uganda indeed has oil and gas, or they call them hydrocarbons, because it can either be oil or it can be gas, but it's all a hydrocarbon.
Right.
So the story starts there when they confirm that there is indeed oil and gas, and then because of the world wars, there is very slow progress in terms of developing that, but you'll begin to know that the first well in Uganda, oil well, I don't mean like a water well. The first oil well was drilled in 1938 by a Johannesburg-based company. So at that time, they knew that after that report that was written in 1925, then companies started coming around. So the first well here was drilled in 1938. You can imagine how far back that is.
So many years.
Yeah.
But what's significant, especially for us who are born in this era, is that, and I know there were people who, like, for example, around 2006, who are part of compiling of the report, and these are Ugandans. Yeah. Maybe eventually we'll bring them on the show. Yeah. But 2006, Heritage Oil and Gas discovers oil in that Lake Albertine basin, like really confirms what the report in 1938 does say. But also in 2008, the same Heritage makes a second discovery in the Ngasa area.
Yeah.
And then in 2010, Heritage exits. It does not exit, but
we see the big boys coming onto the scene.
Yeah, Tullow Oil comes, acquires Heritage assets and continues exploration. And at this time, there's like so much excitement. It's going to be like oil, it's going to be like oil. And everyone thought that the rush is going to be like what happened in Ghana.
Yes.
And then it's not the case. We're in 2024, many years later.
So you will appreciate, as I said, so the journey has been long. And because of various reasons, it had been slow up to a point. So when that report did not confirm whether we had commercial oil, it's one thing having oil, and it's one thing to have commercial reserves that are enough for you to invest, to pull them out of the ground for you to make money. So
there are those that are not worth it.
Yes, there are so many. Even in our neighboring Kenya, they discovered oil in northern Kenya, but they were not worth someone coming and drilling it out, because they have to first quantify how much is there. Because Canary, it is just one rig to try and explore whether there is oil can cost you $1 million. So not many people have the appetite. That's probably one of the reasons it took long, because exploration is very risky business. You are not sure whether that oil is commercial. So you're exploring and putting in resources. But long story short, in 2006, that's when they now said, that's why they call them commercial reserves. It means there is oil down there that is enough to make money off. And normally it's the smaller companies that are interested in taking the risks, because the risk is high. If they find oil, the reward is very great. So the Heritages, they're not small, but by any measure they are small compared to the Tullows, to the Totals Energies. So when Heritage discovers oil, when they hit the jackpot, there were people that had been following for a long time. And so Tullow came and bought out everything that Heritage had.
And continued exploring.
Now for them, it was not about exploration anymore. It was about what we call development. Once you've exploration is to confirm that there is oil there and it's commercial. So around that time, before that time, it was, is it commercial? Is there enough oil? There is oil, we know, but is it enough for us to invest? So at that time, 2006, we confirmed that there is enough oil for us to make money. And when that happens, that's when you have now the big companies that have been doing this elsewhere around the world that know the real business of oil and gas come in. Tullow comes in because they have a big portfolio in Africa, and they were looking at that time to increase it. And but now they came up in the development phase, so they bought up Heritage, and for various reasons they exited. So at that time, the conversation was, now that we have found oil, let us develop it quickly and make money off it.
And that's how they announced the 2 wells.
Exactly. So once they announced the 2 wells, we're like, okay, we have oil. I think Ugandans thought, okay, that's it. In the next 1 year, we're going to be benefiting from this oil.
Yeah, but the question here was the how. How shall we be benefiting? So 1, we need a pipeline. 2, we need a refinery.
Yes.
And then what is your stake as a company coming from outside? What is the stake of the Ugandan government?
Yeah.
So I think it's about like that time now, like we're talking about 2012, 2013, they announced a plan, say this is how we're going to moving forward.
Yeah.
But in 2014, interestingly, Sinopec, the Chinese, come and join Tullow and Total in the joint venture.
Yes. So at that time, Tullow was having issues, okay? These are very well documented. You can look them up. In terms of they were having issues, not necessarily here with Uganda, but generally as a company, okay? So then they were looking to downsize their company. So they thought it prudent to sell all their shares to a bigger company. That's how they go and source Total Energies. And then they also sourced Total first, and then the Chinese also came on board. You have to understand that the oil business is it's very complicated. It's not as easy as we found oil, we're going to make money off it. And when we found oil, Uganda was frankly not prepared. And that's probably why we have taken long, because you saw that the Uganda's national oil and gas policy came out in 2008. That was two years after we had discovered. Now, if you don't have a policy in place, there is no way you can go about developing your resources. Then you saw these other petroleum laws that came. One of them was enacted as recent as last year. So you can see that in order to do this right, and this government, because they saw the resource, but they knew that they can easily not benefit. And in order to benefit, all the right things needed to be in place, the right laws, so that they can get a good deal for the country.
Right. On the next episode of this particular segment of the Energy Insider, we'll be talking about, among other things, production licenses. How were they issued to Tullow Uganda operations and then Total E&P Uganda? What do they mean anyway? And what next? Is a first drop of oil still coming out in 2025? Are we on track? That's going to be forming our next conversation on this particular segment in the second episode of this podcast. This is still the Barrowcast, and welcome to the third segment of the show. Now, on this segment, it's sort of like a quiz or a trivia. This is fuel for thought. Let's get into the questions. How much does... Why are you laughing?
Fuel for thought. Okay.
How much does Bravo know about Uganda's oil and gas sector? And I have the questions, and Bravo will be answering. I promise you, I have not shared these questions with anyone, not even Bravo. So you don't know what I'm going to ask. But they're very easy questions.
Well, I hope you don't make me look like a fool, but...
Okay, let's get into them. What year did the Heritage Oil and Gas Limited discover oil in the Kaiso-Tanya area around the Lake Albert Basin?
I'll go with 2006.
Yeah, 2006 is right. And I think it was like a major milestone.
Yeah, we even had a National Prayer Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2006. How old were you in 2006? What do you mean we had a national... You don't look like you're 40, man.
I was young.
Yeah, but this is why, for example...
but I was very passionate.
Sources of information like this podcast is very important. So then you've read, so you know that this happened.
Yeah.
All right. And this discovery, that is Kaiso-Tanya 1, encountered oil in the lower Cretaceous reservoir, confirming the potential of the Albertine Graben.
Yeah.
But let's go to the second question. Which company... I mentioned it earlier, so you already know.
I don't know.
Which company acquired Heritage's assets and continued exploration in 2010?
Tullow Oil.
Yes, that's right. So you have 2 out of 2 now.
How many are they?
I told you I'm not going to share this information.
Okay.
Yeah, so this acquisition really expanded Tullow's presence in Uganda and paved way for further exploration and involvement, like you mentioned earlier, of the oil resources. So, question number 3. What is the name of the pipeline project that will transport crude oil from Uganda to the Tanzanian part of Tanga? Is it EACOP? Is it Uganda-Tanzania pipeline? Is it Lake Albert Tanga pipeline? Or is it the Kampala Dar es Salaam pipeline?
It is the East African Crude Oil Pipeline.
I gave you really
slash EACOP.
Yeah, true. That is a 1,443 kilometer pipeline project that will transport crude oil from Uganda's Lake Albert Basin to the Tanzanian part of Tanga. It's a major infrastructure, and I know many people have fought it. Are you part of those who are saying say no to EACOP?
Why would I? I mean, this is like saying no to a road. Imagine you find somewhere in the Bujo, the land is fertile and they can grow very good matoke, right? And then most of the people that want that matoke are in Kampala. So you like, for us to take this matoke from Bundibujo to Kampala, we need a road, right? And then you have people saying, don't build the road. I think the road is necessary if we are going to have access
They're not saying
to the matoke.
don't build the road. They're saying don't build the road because ABCD.
Yes, don't build the road because we don't like that people in Kampala like matoke.
All right, so you have 3 out of 3. Which oil field is currently being developed by Sinok? Is it Kingfisher? Is it Roketi? Is it Ingasa? Or Kaisotanya?
Okay. So the oil field is called Kingfisher, okay?
Yep, that's right.
But Kingfisher is the project name. So under Kingfisher, there is very many different developments.
Yep.
Yeah.
But the oil field itself is Kingfisher, at least that we know. It's one of the largest oil discoveries in Uganda with over how many estimated million barrels?
Which one? The one we're
Kingfisher.
talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, with
Now I have you.
40,000 barrels.
600 million barrels estimation. Yeah, there's estimated reserves. Estimated
sorry,
reserves.
sorry. I was telling you other things.
Yes.
They are going to be producing 40,000 barrels per day when it's ready.
When is it not just
Because they can't
Kingfisher.
get all those
no,
millions.
not just Kingfisher.
So Kingfisher alone is going to do 40,000.
So what is the projected output of the entire oil production in Uganda by next year, 2025?
230,000 barrels of oil per day.
60,000 barrels per day.
Okay, I think you have the wrong facts.
How can a fact be wrong?
Because so the 60,000 will just be going to the refinery. Okay, so there is 230,000, most of which is going to go through EACOP, and some of that is going to go to the refinery. So the refinery is going to get the 60,000. So the trivia master is being educated. I like this.
No, that's the projected output of oil production in Uganda, 60,000 barrels per day.
No. The projected output for the entire is 230,000. 60,000 is very small, you know.
Okay, I'm going to find my producer. Let me check out
Yeah,
here.
please.
Quick Google search.
Please
Right?
do the Google search. That is just for the refinery.
I'm buying lunch if I'm wrong.
And I'm buying you a Nile special if you're right.
At peak, Uganda plants produce about 230,000 barrels of crude oil per day. The country's crude reserves are estimated at 6.5 billion barrels, of which 1.4 billion barrels are recoverable.
Yes.
So I'm buying lunch.
You're definitely buying lunch.
All right.
Yeah.
What year did Heritage Oil and Gas Limited discover oil in Kaisotanya area around Lake?
Isn't that the
Basin?
first question you asked?
No, it's not.
You sure?
Yeah.
Then 2007.
You gave the first answer and it was correct. Now why are you going against the word?
No, because they had multiple discoveries. The first one was 2006.
Yeah,
which
so the
is
question
the
is,
one.
what year did Heritage Oil and Gas Limited discover oil in the Kaisotanya area around Lake Albert Basin?
2006.
Yes, I was playing your mind.
You got me.
Which company acquired? Okay, we're over this. Okay, let's go to the last question of the day.
Okay. So I have like 100% so far, right? Good.
Yes, you failed one.
Which one?
Yeah, you failed one.
Which one? Oh, no, I haven't failed any.
What is the oil price forecast for 5 years?
What is the oil price forecast for 5 years? That one is a very open-ended question, honestly, because
For 5 years, from 2024 for the next 5 years.
like how much is going to cost per barrel?
Yes.
There is-
Projected.
Projected. So there is different sources. There is an OPEC price. There is one which, OPEC comes up with a prediction. There is one which the International Energy Agency comes up with. But from the reports that I've read,
Per barrel.
it is going to be around the $70
Yeah.
mark, 70
That's-
US dollars.
That's really nice.
per barrel.
You're not wrong,
Okay. Oh,
but you're also not correct.
Jesus.
But you're around there, your
Okay.
average. So the average would be 83 per barrel in 2024, would drop in 2025 next year to about 80, drop even further, 74 in 2027, and go up. That's a projection. About 88 in 2028.
Go up to 88.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's a projection.
But I would
we
need
don't
to-
know what happens in
But
the
I
next.
would need to know your source, like who is
It's a Bloomberg.
projecting
It's a
this.
Bloomberg
This is a
source.
Bloomberg.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Right. Thank you. You are getting almost 90% of this year. Guys, this has been Fuel for Thought. Still watching the Barrowcast. We'll be back shortly. You're still watching and listening to the Barrowcast. My name is Canary and Bravo. I'm here with Ronnie Bravo Katunji. He's a consultant on energy, but also the founder and CEO of Barrow Magazine. This is the Energy Outlook segment, right? What should we look forward to in the next episode? This is also interesting because we just received news that some anti-ECOP activists have been arrested and detained in Uganda.
Okay. So what should we look forward to? We should look forward.
So this is the Ugandan activists campaigning to stop the development of the $5 billion crude oil pipeline in East Africa by France's Total Energies, and others have been detained by Uganda's military, the group he works for said on Wednesday. This is off a blog. Stephen Kwichiriza from the Uganda Environmental Pressure Group Environmental Governance Institute, EGI, has been campaigning to halt the East African crude oil pipeline. Honestly, do you think that there's headway for this fight anti-ECOP, anti-development of ECOP?
So this fight for ECOP is not just a Ugandan fight, the global, this global conversation around climate change, around we should stop using fossil fuels. So there is a lot of pressure groups around the world. This happens to be a specific one for this project. But whether it's in the US, whether it's I'm sure you've seen the ones in the UK that are, they are taping themselves on runways, and because they are trying to stop oil. Okay, so this campaign about we just have to work with, that's the current environment. These people have the right to express themselves and express that
Whatever they think.
Yes, they want ECOP to stop. Okay,
Is there a point where freedom of expression, and I'm asking this as a question, I'm not saying it should be the fact, because I'm a campaigner for press freedom of expression. Is there a point where freedom should be limited? Because I think everyone agrees that this is a very good project for Uganda and the region, and this is something that the government or the country at large can rip from. But you have campaigners with a narrative that this is actually the other way around. It's a bad project for you. Is there a point where expression and its freedoms should be limited?
Thank you for this question, Canary. I think this is an old age question about democracy and how it operates, because you would recall about the Bujagali the Bujagali Dam. Okay, that dam took about 15 years to construct, and the main issue was freedom of speech. People, there was a judge that used to live in that area, so they're like, no, you're not moving the judge because you're infringing on his human rights. So most of these things have to be dealt with on a case-to-case basis. There has to be willingness on the side of government or whoever is doing the project to do as much as possible to preserve people's human rights and rights of freedom. But where it comes in the way of development, there is bound to be clashes, like you hear on the eco pipeline, people being arrested. Those clashes are going to continue happening, but I feel like we should not stop development because somebody is not
Has
happy.
an opinion.
Yes, because someone has an
Maybe
opinion.
we should subject it to a vote. I don't know if something.
What should we subject to a vote? You cannot.
Oil democracy. That's what we're going to call it. Oil democracy.
Yes. It depends if this democracy is really democratic. You know, democracy is very wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just let the majority decide whether ECOP should be developed or not.
But you know, democracy is not the tyranny of majority, right?
Yeah.
Even the minorities' rights need to be respected.
No, that's why they read minority reports in parliament.
Yeah, that's true. That's why one
also-
judge can complain that do not build this power plant, and you have to find a way of negotiating. But sometimes it ends in you having to physically lift the judge off the ground and relocate them to a house somewhere that you have built for them.
So that's a debate that
It's a very
has
big
been
debate.
happening. It's a big
Yeah.
debate that's been happening also on Uganda's land. Should
Yes.
the government go on with construction of roads and other big projects on your land before they negotiate with you? You can negotiate later, because right now as it stands, you can't do that. You will sue government and you will win.
So
But when that debate came up, the politicians went to the people and said the government wants to steal your land. And so many projects are at standstill because they cannot continue because of the current law.
Yeah,
Maybe democracy
absolutely.
sometimes will not have to necessarily work.
You've heard that some of the roads here constructed in Uganda are some of the most expensive roads in the world. What makes them the most expensive roads in the world is because of compensation. And before compensation, the laws were not very clear. So somebody could say, my land is valued at, it's 1 acre, but they're valuing it at 100 million. And they will insist on that. If you don't pay it, then there is a demonstration, then there is something. So sometimes they have had to be paid out, and that is what has been causing all these delays. There is definitely need for some sort of reforms, but that is above my pay grade.
Right. So you say that's above your pay grade?
It is indeed.
Yeah, bravo. Been a pleasure having you on the broadcast. Guys, let us know what is the right thing to do when such conversations come up, like ECOP. Stop ECOP, continue with ECOP. We really need to listen to all voices, and when we do, what should be the middle ground? Let us know in the comments below what is the right thing to do on this, what we called it, what, oil democracy?
On this oil conversation.
On this oil conversation. This has been the broadcast. We'll catch you again in the next episode, and thank you for being part of this conversation.